Hello my snacks, welcome back. My name's Jack. Today's thematic storytelling is all about the most scummiest of scumbaggery on the internet. Our first story begins in true Offmychest, where an absolute piece of schmidt not only goes behind their partner's back for a long time, but also shares their partner's nudes. And ultimately begs the question, at what point does it justify you absolutely shattering someone else's career because they cheated on you? My girlfriend of 3 years doesn't know I know she's cheating, but she's about to. I'm a 21-year-old female, and I have been dating my girlfriend who's 22 for 3 years. I grew up in a really small town, so finding other women who liked women wasn't easy. We met at my college orientation because she was one of the group leaders showing us around. I saw her more and more as the weeks passed, and we ate at similar times, and we eventually became friends. She always assumed I was straight because I have a very feminine style. I'm sure others can relate to this misconception, but being friends didn't last very long when we found out we both liked women. The last 3 years have been great, or at least I thought they were. About 2 months ago, she started getting really cagey around her phone, which was a red flag to me. Before that, we were both open with our phones and frequently went on them for directions, to look things up or text our friends if our phone died. 2 weeks ago, I went through her phone when she was showering. Yes, I know, invasion of privacy. It wasn't hard to find what I was looking for, but what angered me the most is that besides her cheating, she was making fun of me with the other girl. Both of them making remarks that I was looking like a bimbo and it would only get me so far. Which is funny considering she constantly talks about me and how she loves my over-the-top femininity. I was honestly ready to explode right there, but instead, I took screenshots of their flirtatious text messages and sent them to myself. Here's the thing. Both of them are part of an internship that, at least from my girlfriend's side, she's been working years to get into, in hopes of getting offered a full contract when her schooling is done. Now, as internships or even jobs are, relationships are strictly prohibited amongst coworkers and results in termination. So, the head of the program will be getting a very exciting email very soon. I also know her schedule like the back of my hand, so my friends and me are going to take back all the stuff I bought for her and leave a box of the few things she bought me with a print of the messages taped on top. Maybe not the coldest revenge in the world, but I hope she has fun sleeping in a bed with no sheets or a duvet. Also, have fun scrambling to buy the very expensive textbooks I bought for you right before finals begin. So, essentially, she's caught her partner cheating with someone who's technically the co-worker. By exposing this to the boss of theirs, they're gonna lose their jobs. However, would you say that's a fair thing to do? Like, yes, it's one thing to be cheated on, but to literally shatter someone's potential for a career at this establishment? Personally, I'm gonna vote no, because there's a difference between destroying someone's literal ability to have a career and money versus breaking a heart. But with an edit they make, things become a bit different. So edit, some of the comments are having me rethink sending stuff to her boss. It won't ruin her career, but perhaps it's too far. However, I do feel a lack of sympathy because of how the two of them talked about me. If I do decide against it, I'm going to find something equally petty that doesn't involve her career. Most of the texts were spent brutally slut-shaming me and calling me a bimbo because of my appearance. The other girl is going as far as asking my ex for special photos of me to see if I looked as plastic as I think she does. Whatever that means. I haven't decided yet. All I know is I'm getting ready to go partying with my friends. And by far the most accurate criticism on this cheater scumbag. So she's a woman who likes other women, but makes fun of other women who act too much like women. With other women. Now, there was quite a few discussions within the comments, with the OP replying to some pondering if maybe the other person wanted some nudes of OP was because they were personally, secretly, really into OP themselves. But OP says, I don't think she was attracted to me at all. Quite the opposite. I think she's disgusted by hyper-feminine women. In her text, she accused me several times of looking the way I do for an advantage in my study because it's male-dominated. Which it's quite the opposite. I'm often ridiculed by peers, or they try their best to not work with me. However, on the bright side, other female STEM students tend to be very loving towards me, and I love them back. I can only describe her as a pick-me girl, and women who like bimbos can't be smart. I think she wanted to see if my body had work done to prove her point about what kind of girl I am. But I agree with the top part of this comment here. It really still comes across as the idea of a schoolyard bully who's actually really into someone, just harassing them as a way to try and get their attention or hide the embarrassment they have for their attraction to something that they normally think is absolutely wrong and stupid. How dare you make me like you? This is all your fault! Other comments offer, well, why don't you just go down the route of ruining her relationship with her parents instead of her career? Which she's hesitant to, as because she has a good relationship with the mother, which I'll leave up to you to decide on that one. I mean, I doubt her mother's gonna hate you for her own actions. But back to that original question, can you justify ruining someone's career because they cheated on you? Well, this little back and forth between OP and Secret Devil's Advocate here really actually changed my original thought on that process. I avoid people with revenge stories 90% of the times. Who knows what they'll do to you if you screw up or get falsely accused? Fair, yes, but this is beyond the point of just being cheated on and wanting to slander their name. Them sending a photo of me to someone who could do who knows what with it can certainly ruin my life, equal to having her internship taken away. Let's not pretend like it hasn't for many people, especially women. To pretend like someone's nudes being passed around hasn't caused those things or worse is disingenuous. And that's absolutely a true point. This is beyond just a case of cheating and asking for nudes and slandering someone behind their back. This is literally sharing unsolicited pornography of sorts. OP isn't just getting someone fired over something petty. They're literally calling this person out for essentially revenge porn. But in a quick update to the original post, I just took all of my stuff with my friends and left all of the items she got me in the box with the printout of the text messages. I'm about to call her mum, who loves me very much, and tell her everything. I'll probably update later on how that went. She probably won't find the box for a few hours since she usually doesn't get home until around 5. Also, for those who are curious, no, I'm not going to take those textbooks back and just dump them. I'm going to sell them and donate the money to homeless and animal shelters. I'm also going to give the sheets and duvet to a homeless person. So with that said, we move over to the update. So as many of you know, I went through with taking all of my stuff back and leaving the things she got me with printouts of all the messages between them. I also ended up dumping a ton of glitter on her naked mattress and basically the whole place. I also called her mother, who I was very close with, and to say she was angry was an understatement. I left my now ex's number unblocked because I wanted to see her reaction, if she had any at all. As expected, she had a total meltdown. She texted me 84 times, begging me to come back to talk, apologizing and saying she didn't mean it and was just trying to make the other girl feel less insecure. Oh, well, that's fine then. You know, because you were just trying to make your affair partner feel better about themselves. That makes it totally okay that you cheated. I was the most beautiful woman she's ever met, and she didn't want to lose me, saying she loved me, blah, blah, blah. It was honestly pathetic. She also called me a ton of times, but I didn't answer. I haven't listened to the voicemails either. She also thought it was a great idea to wait for me outside of my 8 a.m. class with flowers, and I told her if she did it again, I'd contact the university for harassment. I've been staying with my friend, and it's honestly been a lot better than I expected. I've been partying a lot over the weekend with my friends. Now, after my original post, I received a flood of comments, which made me reconsider, and I had a hard time deciding if I wanted to email her internship. To make it short for the people who don't care that much, I did end up emailing the head of the program, not because she cheated on me, but because the both of them were sending my nude photos between the two of them. I'm still deciding if I want to take legal action on a personal level, but with their line of work, I don't think their behavior is appropriate, especially the other woman's hateful nature towards specific types of women she deems worthless. I emailed the head of the program the extent of the issue, and however he decides to handle it is his choice. Part of me is feeling a bit sad for the ex here for how they're being treated, but then again, these two women were literally acting like just the douchey baggy of men who will send nudes back and forth to other mates or even other women they're interested in. Like, does this a-hole affair partner not realize that they're like, she's as bad as the kind of guys that follow Andrew Tate? With all the comments absolutely supporting the idea of taking some legal action against this person. Like, sure, they weren't sending these photos after you broke up or anything, but they were still doing it without your permission. That's still an invasion of privacy. And something, as you agreed and mentioned, can affect your career prospects as well. So yeah, hopefully we hear something about this woman going to jail sometime soon. We'll now move on to a short story from Today I Fricked Up, where I don't think Opie is aware of how much she was manipulated into this scenario. Which is a shame, because they sound like they had a real connection with it the entire time. So today I fricked up by having sex for the first time with my married friend. Basically, title is what happened. He's 28 male and has been my friend for quite some time now, a 25-year-old female. And I met him a few months back when I broke my leg, and he was the doctor who did my surgery. We started speaking a few days after the surgery, and I knew he was married, and I always kept my distance. He told me one fine day that he wished I hugged him, and my immediate response was, well, one thing may lead to another. Although I was hesitant, he told me one day how things weren't going great with his wife, who's 25 as well, how he's been married to her for 2.5 years, and they haven't had smex till date, and how frustrating he feels, and to add, lonely, avoided by his wife, who is at present a doctor, studying and working. I believe him because we come from a place where we've got to be careful about our sexual activity before marriage, and also because he's very honest in nature. Yeah, sure he is. He told me he's still a virgin, and I laughed at him at first. The thing is, I was too. Fast forward the entire thing, we started meeting up outside, then he slowly started wanting me to come to his place to give him company, and sometimes a hug. Then he kissed me and I was really bothered. Didn't express anything at the time. However, a few weeks later, I started longing to see him again, and this time kiss him. Goodness, I tell you, that the both of us managed not to have intimacy for at least 3 months, and today, it happened. I met him, because he was upset I haven't been visiting him, and we kept having a fight over the phone, so I decided to just give him a hug and be back home immediately. Things didn't go according to plan, and now we both feel terrible. Besides the fact that we lost our virginity to each other, there was nothing interesting about the smex, and it hurts the both of us. We don't know what to do. I came back home and went to read an article on what should a woman do if she slept with a married man, and it says, leave. For the sake of your sanity and self-respect, he's not going to leave his wife. Ooh, I need to add this. He keeps making these jokes about how he wished he could be married to 3 women legally at the same time. I'm the second one. Yeah, that last paragraph, I'm hoping they actually realize where they've screwed up in this. But even then, you can't really blame them. This guy absolutely pushed her into a scenario that she clearly was yearning for. He just happened to be the first guy around that could answer the call. Top Comment nails it though. I wonder how many women he's lost his virginity to. Seriously, how is that an attractive thing? I don't get it. No one gets hired at a workplace saying, I have no experience in this job, that's why you should hire me. Like, the only way that works is with nepotism, and I don't really want to apply that towards having sex with someone. I say this because I knew an old mate who used this tactic as well. He would say to girls he's met at a party that, oh, I'm a virgin as well. Don't tell anyone though, it's embarrassing. But as another comment says, yeah, how many were patients too? You have to wonder. Like trying to start a clear relationship with your patient, that is... I feel there's something not allowed about that, surely. Yes, a very ethical guy on all aspects of his life. Yeah, that was a hustle that one of the guys on my floor in college used to run on women. I know for a fact that he wound up having sex with at least 5 women in a single semester this way. It shocked me how many women fell for his line. Just looking at the students, how he carried himself would tell you that there was probably no way he was a virgin. But then also as this comment says, hang on, is he maybe saying he's a virgin not because he is just trying to get some little sympathy intimacy from you, or some idea that like, oh, he's just as nervous as you are, but to give him an excuse for being so bad at getting you off? Something tells me he didn't find the smex bad at all. He just played along with your disappointment, so it didn't seem like he was just getting only what he wanted. We now move over to relationship advice with 2 stories that are similar in their theme of partners grooming their married partner's children. Yeah, it's a weird thing that actually happens so many times. I'm a 37-year-old male. My son, who's 21, slept with my girlfriend, 32. I don't know how to process this level of betrayal. I apologize in advance if this isn't the most coherent thing in the world. This is partially just me venting to the void. About 4 years ago, I lost my wife, the mother of my son, to lung cancer. We had been together since we were 14. It was the darkest time in my life. I had considered self-harm on a nearly daily basis. I pushed on for my son, and because my wife made me promise to make the most of life. We had our son pretty young. I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat and thankfully was able to provide a decent upbringing until he moved out at 16. although I still paid, and continue to do so until this happened, a portion of his bills. The loss was extremely hard on my son as well. He came back to stay with me for a while, and we'd work through the grief together every day. I got him into therapy, pushed him to get involved in things to keep his mind busy, and when he moved back into his apartment, I'd call every night to check in on him, and visited multiple times a week. We were always extremely close. My wife told me outright after her diagnosis that she didn't want me alone, so I made myself available. My girlfriend and I met about 2 years ago and hit it off. She isn't my wife, but I loved her for who she was and we really connected. I was reluctant to introduce her to my son because I was afraid he'd feel I was betraying his mother, so I held off for the first year, which I regretted, as they ended up getting along very well. We'd hang out together, my son was happy, I was happy. She moved in with me about 5 months ago. This past Thursday, he was over for dinner and movies. We've had this little game since he was a teenager where I'd pop up over his shoulder when he was on his phone in common areas and say, "Stop looking at that!" in an accusing way to mess with him, even though he was never looking at anything. Turns out this time he was doing something, and I seen topless photos on his phone. I recognized the photos to be of my girlfriend, same tattoo placement between the breasts. I grabbed the phone from him and he immediately starts pleading his case. I go into gallery and there are easily 24 photos of my girlfriend. Some of him I'm assuming he sent to her, 1 or 2 of them together. By this time, he's crying and trying to grab the phone back. I check his texts, and he has 2 weeks worth of conversations with her, under a different name, detailing the fact that they've been screwing around behind my back. My girlfriend is in the room, begging to know what's going on. I'm not proud of the fact I lost myself. I screamed at them both. I smashed the phone. Yes, I know this is unacceptable. Yes, I'm in therapy. Yes, it's the first time I got aggressive with either of them. I demanded details. My son kept apologizing and saying he didn't know why and that it had only started 2 weeks ago. They slept together 3 times. My girlfriend was sobbing and kept trying to hug me, telling me it was a mistake, purely physical, and that she'd never speak to him again. I screamed at my son that I'd given my life to him, that he knew what this meant to me, that he was all I had left. I pulled him upstairs and gave him the money for his phone and kicked him out. I went upstairs to our bedroom, turned her drawers upside down and packed her clothes into 2 travel bags while she kept asking me to listen. I put them outside, guided her through the door, and told her she could have someone else get the rest of her belongings this week. Both of them have been texting me non-stop until last night, at which point I blocked their number. I feel completely detached. The fact that after 2 years, my girlfriend, knowing my history, could betray me is painful enough, and absolutely nothing will make me forgive her. She refuses to get her stuff until I talk to her, so I'm having a friend drop it off to her. The fact my son, who I dropped everything for, worked non-stop to provide for, who was all I had left in this world, could do this to me, knowing what it would do, is another pain entirely. It feels like I lost another family member. I ache for my wife all over again. I know everyone processes grief differently, but this was 2 years after her passing. He had a girlfriend and I was there for him, as were therapists, every step of the way. So I have a hard time believing grief is the cause of his decision. I can't see this as a mistake. He didn't trip and fall. It was a conscious choice to betray someone who loved him. I want to honor my wife by giving my son a chance, to hold on to the little family I have left. But this isn't like he stole money from me. It isn't even something that happened once while drunk. He was there for that grief with me. He knew how hard it was for me to move on. All the women, he chose mine. All the apologies for future effort can't erase the fact or the memory of it. I never did wrong by him, and now I feel like the kid I raised isn't there anymore. Thanks to friends, I'm not drifting into thoughts of self-harm again. But I don't know if I have it in me to ever forgive him. If and when that day comes, what steps can I take to process what happened, talk to him without feeling disgust, and open the door to trusting him again? And if that day ever comes, does that make me a bad person? And to summarize this edit, the son moving out when they were older was purely his own choice. There wasn't some sort of abuse going on that he was trying to flee from. The popping up over the shoulder thing was just a little game they played, no doubt trying to catch his child looking up some porn or something while in the lounge room. Yes, he paid for the phone after smashing it by giving some cash, and although this thing sounds like it's something out of a dramatic movie, it's also real life. So with that all said, the comments have understandable sense of sympathy about this, and do the best you can to take your time with this all. This is obviously a lot to deal with. So about 5 days later, we get to the update, where everyone comes back and there is a pretty dramatic scuffle that occurs. It's been a busy couple of days, to say the least. I unblocked both their numbers shortly after posting. My now ex called again that night, which I answered. I told her if she wasn't calling to make plans to pick up her stuff, I was hanging up, and we decided on the next morning. I called a platonic female friend of mine that night, and she had agreed to be at my place before my ex showed up as a witness. I had everything packed up and waiting by the door. She showed up as expected, and started crying immediately when I came out with her stuff, trying to pull the bags to the ground so I'd have my hands free for a hug. I put the bags beside her car and asked her to check if I missed anything, which she refused. I agreed to a quick hug, told her to take care and walked inside. My friend pulled the chair she was sitting in on my porch over so it was in front of my door and told her that she was calling the cops if she didn't leave. She did, and I blocked her number again. Seriously? After what you did, you think you deserve a hug? Hey, sorry for literally destroying your entire family's relationship with each other, considering you're all that each other have left. Can I get a sympathy hug? I texted and called my son numerous times and left a voicemail telling him that we needed to talk. But first, he had to come clean to his girlfriend and accept responsibility for his actions. He didn't respond, so I called her myself. We chatted for a while, and she told me he was out with a friend. I asked if he had spoken to her about anything recently, and she said no. So I told her myself. Mostly because I felt it was the right thing to do, as she was a victim in this too. But I'll admit partially because he's a grown man now and needs to deal with the consequences. He showed up to my place that evening, and I let him in. I'm ashamed to say I wasn't nearly as calm as I hoped to be. He asked if ruining his relationship made me feel better, and I told him that he ruined it. Pretty much any hope of productive conversation went out the window, and it became a screaming match. At which point I told him to get out and figure out how to deal with being as alone as I was. He slapped me in the head. This is a kid who never even threw a toy out of anger in childhood, who wasn't even spanked. As disgusted and twisted as it is, this exploded into a physical fight with me being struck in the face multiple times while trying to restrain him, as I didn't have it in me to hit him. My son very much not being a fighter, while in my younger years, I very much was, until I took him off his feet and held him to the floor. I've never felt that level of rage before. How incredibly overwhelming it was. When I saw the fear on his face, I let him up and sat beside him on the floor. I told him to get out. He started crying and told me that his mother would be ashamed of him. This made me break down, pathetically so, and realize how fricked up this whole thing had been. I agreed that she'd be ashamed of both of us, and we hugged while he cried into my chest, something he hasn't done since my wife passed. He asked if it was too late to talk, and I told him it wasn't. I cleaned myself up. We sat at the kitchen table and talked. He told me that he'd stopped therapy a while ago and lied about it because he felt it wasn't helping. He told me that he was hurt when I kept my girlfriend from him the first year because although he knew it was to prevent him getting attached if it didn't work out, he still felt excluded. It came out that he hid a very well-concealed alcohol problem from me and even his girlfriend. He told me he didn't sleep with her to spite me. He was just feeling lost and he made a stupid choice. I asked him why he couldn't have been honest with me before it came to this, and he told me he didn't feel like he could be honest with himself anymore. We cried together again, prayed together despite neither of us being religious, looked through family photo albums together. We discussed the road forward, and we agreed that the loss we both felt went far deeper than we thought. We decided on attending therapy together. We're going to look into support groups, both for his drinking and other families dealing with loss, And now that he's without his girlfriend, and I'm aware of the extent of his issues, I agreed to let him move back home with me so I can make sure he attends his appointments and avoids alcohol, and hopefully so we can bond again with the stipulation that any more violence and he's out the door. He asked me if I can ever forgive him, and I told him honestly that I couldn't. But he's still my son, and I love him. And I reminded him of what his mother told him when he was a kid, that everyone messes up. It's what you do afterwards that makes the difference. I'll never forgive what he did, but if he learns from this and becomes a better person, then I can forget it and have a great relationship with him regardless. So, aside from the fact my lip resembles the mouth of the vampires from Blade 2, for now, which has prompted concern from neighbors and friends, the past 2 days have been great. We've been talking, we cooked dinner together, we've gone on walks, and we're set to start looking into professional help this coming week. He's incredibly apologetic and has a tenderness I haven't seen from him in years. I have no illusions about the amount of work to be done, nor how serious this incident was, but I'm feeling very optimistic about the future. And that's overall the situation at hand. For many, it seemed like a lost cause, that the best thing was just to burn the bridges and accept that your son was a total scumbag to you and didn't deserve any sort of remorse. But regardless, OP seems to want to forgive him, and understandably so. It's not like this man seems to have anything else in his life to cling on to, which part of me, like some other comments here, find that maybe exactly what the son is taking advantage of. As this comment recaps, he blames his dad for ruining his current relationship, which he technically was the one he ruined himself by cheating. He then assaults his father, and then uses the death of his mother to gain sympathy for his actions. I walked in on my son having sex with my brother's wife. I'm a 44-year-old female and walked in on my son, who's 18, having sex with my sister-in-law, 34 female, brother's wife, in a cabin, and I think they have been having it on for a while. For context, my brother, who's 37, moved in with us in February with his wife and 2 children. My husband, who's 44, and I have a big house on a farm. My husband is a farmer. And with everyone working from home, we thought it would be a good chance to stay together as family and for my nieces to spend some time on the farm. I have 3 children, and all of them live with us. The oldest is 18, and the other 2 are 16 and 13-year-old females. On the day my brother arrived, I went to buy groceries with my son, and he went to the pharmacy to get his gym supplements, and I bought the food. I saw condoms in my son's plastic bag when we arrived at the house. 2 packs with 36 condoms each, so 72 in total. Didn't think anything of it, thought he had gotten a girlfriend and wanted to be safe. Okay, but 72 condoms? Jeez! You're coming across as a little too keen, mate. Everything was fine. Everyone got along. My sister-in-law and son would go on an early run around the farm. Everything seemed normal until last month when they left on their run. But I was up baking, and I never saw them make any rounds around the farm, which was weird. I asked about it, and they said they decided to hit the road. I thought nothing of this, everything seemed normal. My sister-in-law and son seemed to have a very good bond. Yesterday, I was coming from a friend's house early in the morning. The sun wasn't up yet, and it was a little dark, but I saw that the cabin we have in the farm was open, and the light was on. I thought maybe one of the employees had forgotten to lock up, so I went to close the door and switch off the lights, and as I got closer, I heard people having it on, and I took a peek, and it was my son and sister-in-law having sex. I didn't confront them. I was so in shock. I still haven't told anyone what I saw, and I don't know what to do. Should I confront them? Should I tell my brother? Should I tell my husband? I'm so confused. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I'm sure that they have been doing this for a while from the condoms. My son was always at their house. He never brought a girlfriend over. The morning runs around the farm? Like, do they really go on a run, or do they just have it on? The close relationship too. So what's your first thoughts here? Mine is, honestly, yes, absolutely the brother needs to know. They're your brother. Sure, your son's only 18, he's an idiot, but the wife, the sister-in-law, she knows what she's doing. She's made her choice. She deserves to be absolutely shamed by this family. Though, of course, can you trust the brother to be able to take this with a sense of civility? As this top comment does point out this very important thing to probably do beforehand. I grew up on a farm, and I'm just going to give you the advice no one here has yet. Hide the guns. Lock them up in a safe if you have one, and put the key in a new place. No matter how you handle this, it's gonna be bad. And yeah, the comments agree here that it's inevitable. You have to tell someone about this. There is no benefit to keeping this a secret. Basically offering a plan as to how to take this step by step, bit of an Ocean's 12 style game. As they suggest here, getting a therapist for the son, because no matter how consensual this was, he's still young, and this was a trusted family member who went after him. Which, as we'll find out in the update, yeah, she absolutely took advantage of this young, keen boy. So 2 days later, the OP springs into action. And all hell does break loose. I first want to thank everyone for all the advice I got from my original post. I'm sorry for not replying to any comments. I think I only replied to one comment. My head was all over the place. I'll try to keep this update short. As was suggested by many of the comments, I decided to tell my husband first and proceed from there. My husband lost it. He first thought it was a joke. We talked about the issue and we decided we should first talk to our son before telling my brother. We confronted our son with what I saw. He already knew what was going on as he saw my Reddit posts and put 2 and 2 together. He didn't deny anything. He confessed. He told us him and the sister-in-law had been having it on since February last year. So he was 17 at the time. My son said it started on the sister-in-law's birthday party he attended. They got drunk and had it on in a bathroom, and they have been meeting at hotels ever since and sneaking off at family gatherings. Yeah, I wonder who in the family gave him a drink to have, huh? After my son's confession, my husband just lost it and told my son to leave the house and go to our condo in town, as he didn't want to see him in front of him at this moment. When my son was gone, my husband stormed into my brother's room and told my brother everything. The sister-in-law was not in the house at that moment. My brother lost it and packed his stuff, took the kids and left. He asked where my son had gone. He said he wanted to teach him a lesson. We didn't tell him, and he eventually left. Sister-in-law didn't return. I think my brother might have called her or my son warned her and she is afraid to come back. Her things are still in the house. In all the screaming and shouting, my daughters heard everything and are devastated that their family might be ruined. They miss their brother and are afraid my husband won't ever let him in the house again. See, my husband hates all forms of infidelity to the core and has always drilled this in our 2 eldest children that they must never cheat on anyone or be in a relationship with someone in a relationship. Which makes you wonder, did he drill it so hard into the son here that he's treated it as a sense of taboo, which, in that, made him curious about it even more so? Or, after drunkenly doing this with this woman who clearly took advantage of a younger guy, felt too ashamed and afraid to let their father know about it and thought, hey, well, I might as well ride this out because, yay, free smacks. I know I did nothing wrong in this, but how will I ever look my brother in the eye again? He won't answer my calls or text. My husband said I should give him time to heal. My son has left the condo because he is afraid of what my brother will do to him, and is now hiding at a friend's house, and he won't tell us which friend. No word on sister-in-law. Some extra info, the sister-in-law was the one who initiated it the first time my son and her slept together. She was the one booking hotel rooms, buying my son dinners and lunches. My son was even receiving an allowance from her. So that's how it seems to end. Whole family torn apart, a son now on the run, though some people would be suspicious as to who this friend is. I have a feeling this friend is the sister-in-law maybe. They might be somewhere together, but obviously he could just be worried about someone finding out where he is and going to beat his butt. But ultimately, your brother-in-law's biggest issue should be with his wife. She took advantage of a teenager and kept it up for so long. And that's the thing, this type of predatory behavior by the sister-in-law could repeat with other teens or even her children. She groomed a 17-year-old who was still growing and trying to find himself. No one should offer intimacy to a teen. The money she offered him could very well be her way of convincing him to continue the affair. Her authority as an elder could have made it harder for your son to reject it first too. It's that old case of having a position of power. You can never have a genuine relationship with anyone if you have a position of power over them. Because as it seems, there's a lot of comments here deleted from the OP because it is an old story, but they seem hesitant to want to call the police on the sister-in-law here, even though this is a clear evidential case of drugging a minor with alcohol and then sleeping with them in a drunken state. It is weird enough though, as some people are pointing out, that everyone in this story is seeming to focus on the son being the idiot here rather than the sister-in-law being a predator, but I'm also not too surprised. Common stereotype in the male culture, to hate the person who slept with your partner and not so much your partner who you're actually in the relationship with. There are more comments later on that the OP did respond to. Yes, it's possible he's actually with the sister-in-law. I even suspect my son might have warned sister-in-law because I called all the parents of his friends and none have seen him. And again, clearly, yes, we're focusing on the son being the person to tackle in this situation, and that makes a lot of people snap. I had a separate comment, but you and your husband need to get your freaking Schmidt together. She is a grown-ass woman who was fricking and grooming a child. He was 17. I don't give a frick if your man-child husband hates infidelity. Most of us do. But she is a grown-ass woman in her 30s who holds most of this bag. She is the one who is married. She is the one who had kids and a family to think about. She made the choice to statutorily grape a minor. 17 and 18-year-old kids aren't known for making thorough, intelligent adult decisions. You need to tell your brother to back the frick off your son and worry about his pedophile wife. In fact, you should probably make sure they aren't together. Maybe be a parent and protect your child from a fricking predator and a hillbilly moron? Hell, why aren't you looking for your sister-in-law to teach her a lesson? If the genders were reversed, no one would be calling for the girl's head at 18. This is no different. So what does that leave you as someone reading this story from the outside in? The privilege of not actually having to be personally involved with the drama. I think that last comment really does nail this on the head. It is very suspicious, well, not suspicious, frustrating that you haven't expressed any rage at this woman who is basically, yes, raped your son. I don't care how much of a libido a teenage boy has. This is going to mess up his future relationships because he's only going to understand love and connection through financial bribery. And on top of that, seeing long-term women who are wives and such as people who just want to commit nothing but infidelity on younger men. Like, oh boy, he's going to be really secure in a marriage in the future. Anyway, we'll end today's stories there. Thank you, as always, for watching. Hopefully the people suffering in some of these stories today are living a better life. And I hope you are too. Remember to drink water, I love your face, and until then, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.